Thorpe, and to everyone that is online tonight. Are you able to see me? Yes, I think I'm right. Good. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen. And tonight we are not going to be touching Bible-related stuff tonight, but something that is very relevant to us. And I think it's something that we need to share in light of what is happening in recent times. So tonight I'll be talking on the subject of cyber security. And let me go into presentation mode. Okay, that's better. All right, so cybersecurity awareness. And what is this to us tonight? Are you hearing me? You can just let me know if you're hearing me clearly.
You're coming through okay. You're coming through okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so what is cybersecurity? Now, when we hear the term cyber, it does speaks to airwaves or space. Um, it's a terminology that, you talk about the cyber world, you don't normally hear persons making reference to that. Same thing as the internet or in this electronic age that we are. Now, in life, we started out with different type of what they call revolutions, and we would have seen where the industrial revolution came along and persons were more going to using power machineries and all of that. Now, in our day and age, we are living in a time of information, and they say that data or information is the new goal. And so when we talk about cybersecurity, it is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic system, network, and data from malicious attacks. And this is also called technology security or electronic security. So what is that saying? All kind of big words in there. But simply put, anything that you do electronically is a risk for you to be attacked in the cyber world or in the internet space. And this is not only unique just to us as Christians, because we are living in a world where, whether we like it or not, we are going to be moving towards using more online stuff rather than even cash. When you think about cash, we are moving more and more towards a cashless society. And so a lot of the information that we have now is on the web or at your home on your computer or on your phones. And these are things that sometimes we are not aware of how it is that persons access these information. So we want to talk about security awareness and cyber awareness, and particularly because we as Christians sometimes, we because we are kind-hearted and all of these things, we expect that other persons would behave in a similar manner. But even when you share passwords or PIN or whatever, because you are asking a friend to do something for you, sometimes you might have an email and probably you might not be able to use that email properly, and you might ask somebody that you trust as a friend, and you say, okay, help me with this, and you give them your password and they log in for you. You are opening yourself to a lot of risk that you are unaware of. And so we want to be able to protect ourselves from that. So why is cybersecurity important? First, it protects you from hackers. It protects you from identity theft. It protects you from data loss. It protects you from reputational damage. and it also protect you from financial losses. And there are other things that we could look on as it relates to that. We'll touch some of these in more detail, but I want to look on the fourth part of the thing about reputational damage. Now, a lot of times you may recover from some things that are financial losses. Yes, it might be hard, but you can recover from a financial loss. So if somebody hits your bank account, take all the money, as hard as that sounds, it's easier for you to recover. But point 2 and 4, identity theft and reputational damage, is something that is very serious, and most times it is difficult to recover from that. I will expound a little more as we go into the presentation, and it's condensed, so you don't have to worry. Try not to be too technical with the terms, but to keep it as simple as possible. So, what are some of the main types of cybersecurity that we need to be considered about? We talk about network security. And for those of us, when we talk about network, it's anything that is connected with wires or wireless. So if you think about the modern setup, most persons that work in an office, you realize that you plug your machine inside a device, and they call it an Ethernet cable. Let me see if I have one lying nearby here that I can show you. But most of us know what an Ethernet cable looks like. It's something that looks like a little phone jack at the end, and you plug it inside your machine. So that's a network that is connected. And usually that network is internal to the company, or if it's a church, you could set up a church network, and only the persons that are in that particular organization or business has access to that information. At your home, you can also have your own network, but most of the time, and for most of us, we would have internet at home. Right now, we are using the internet. Most of us are connected via our phone. And so we are using what is called a wireless network. But a network is just basically a group of devices coming together in the same space, and you can share information across that. So the practice of network security is important, because if persons get access to your network, then they have the same privilege that you have. So when you invite somebody at your house, for example, and you share your Wi-Fi password with them, everybody that is inside that network has somewhat visibility to what somebody else is doing. Now, whilst you may not be able to physically go and look on what is happening, somebody that is skilled is capable of using other technologies to actually see what is happening. So you can be there on your computer right now, typing on a screen, and somebody can actually see exactly what you're typing. And so network security is one of the first type of cybersecurity that we have to ensure. Now we talk about application security. And when we talk about application, we are talking about the softwares or the stuff that you use on your computer. So anything that you download on your phone or your computer, it is called an application, and it is a software program written by somebody. Now, a lot of times, and there's the common terminology that nothing in life is free, right? So a lot of times, for most of us who have iPhone, we go to what is called the iStore. For those persons can afford the iPhone. And for those who have Android, which is majority of us, we'll go to what is called the Google Play Store, and we download different applications. So you go and download the Bible, or your hymnal or some form of game or anything. Once you download that thing, it becomes an application on your machine. And whilst for the most part, the um, content owners like Google and Apple tries to scrutinize, what are the applications that are there on the machine. There are things that it tells you. So when you finish with this presentation tonight, just go on as if you're going to download something from Google and Google Play or iOS, whichever store. And there's usually a section on it that tells you what this will have access to. It is very important that you read what you are given access to. So sometimes it tells you that this will have access to your contact information. It will have access to your video camera. It will have access to your voice, or whatever the access is. It usually tells you because they have to declare that in order for the application to be on the Google Play or on the iOS. Now, what are they using that information to do? In most cases, it is used for good things. They will take that information and they will pretty much sell it to profile you in terms of some of the things that you like. So if you go on YouTube and you watch certain videos, or if you go on the internet and you research certain things, then because the persons that have the application, they can see some of the stuff you want, and then they sell those information to marketers who target you. So if you're somebody that like bag, all of a sudden you see all the advertisements coming up relating to bag or whatever it is that you generally search. In fact, nowadays you have to be careful even with your Google when you access your Google Voice, because a lot of these applications, in order for it to respond to you, it actually has to listen to your conversations. Yes, it is actually listening to your conversations. So when you say, okay, Google, and it responds and say, what do you want? And so on, how you think Google is responding? Because it's always listening. So if it's listening for when you say, okay, Google, what else is it listening for? and so we have to be careful of what it is that we have. And it's not for us to become afraid and to become paranoid that everything we start to do, just to be aware. Now we talk about information security. This is just talking about the integrity of your data, the privacy of your data, just like we were saying earlier. So there are some information that is private to you. When you sign up for some free applications, sometimes they request for you to put in certain personal data. And these personal data are identifying data. So it tells you what your age is, what your date of birth, and so on. And for the most part, since we are Christians and we want to be honest people, then we are going to put in the right information. Now, I know in some of the cases, we don't put in the right information. I wouldn't want to say it's lying, but if somebody say, when you're born, and you say, I'm born in 1976, when you know that you're born in 1999, then you can read between the lines, right? So yes, we might not want persons to predict our accurate age, and so we say, well, I'm not going to put my correct date of birth. But you might want to think about it, just saying. But irrespective of whether it is you use your correct date of birth or some fictitious thing, it's some information that is tied to you and it can identify you personally. So those are data that is private. And the other one we don't worry so much about, it's operational security. That's more for the business persons who have to look on, other things. But I want to focus the thing on more the personal side of cybersecurity and not so much the business side. So like the big companies like the Flows and the Digitals and the banks and all of these places, they would be more so worried about operational security and how they store data and share data across their business. And of course, each entity will also have some form of way that they provide how you should use your device. So for my company, for example, I'm given access to a laptop. And so there are certain things that I can't do with my laptop. I can't download certain things, or I can't use personal devices to access certain things, because it might become a problem where persons can breach the company from external. And by the way, if you have any questions or if there's anything unclear, feel free to stop me, because I know some of this is going a little technical, but again, I'm trying to keep it as non-technical as possible and use simple terms that you can relate to. But if I'm getting too technical, please let me know and I will try to explain it a different way. Are we good so far? Everybody with me so far? Not losing anyone? Just checking.
So far, so good. So far, excellent. So far.
All right,
We need
wonderful.
it. We
Thank
need
you,
it. We
sir.
need this information.
Okay, so moving on now. So what is hacking? So here we talk about hacking a lot, and you hear the term hackers, and people, some of us might know what it is, some might not know, and we just get used to the term. But hacking simply is the access to unauthorized information, and there's a double type in there. So it's when we access unauthorized information or data via electronic means or devices, and this is done by an external user or entity. And why I use the word entity there is that in some of the cases that the hacking is not done by an individual, although it would have been an individual who would have created an application to do the hacking. So you have persons who will try to sit down and type up and figure out some things. And in some cases, we'll have persons who have programs, and those programs are written to just run and keep trying to access information until it gets through. The persons are that generally do this kind of unauthorized access are referred to as hackers. Now, there are two forms of hacking, and again, I don't know why they always associate everything that is bad with black, but you have what is called white hackers and you have what is called black hackers. So if you hear those terminologies before, I'm going to break it down simply. So a white hacker is someone that hacks a system for good reasons. So you will have persons that are employed, and let's say you have your company or you have your home and you set up something and you want to know if this system is secure enough that I feel comfortable. Then you'll have somebody that has the skill of a hacker that comes in and they will do all the different kind of tests. They call it pen testing to check to see how they can access your network. And after where they will give you a pass to say, okay, these are some of the risks we are associated. They do what is called a security audit on your network. So these are the good hackers. These are the hackers that you actually want, because these are the persons now. In this case, it is no longer unauthorized access, but they are accessing the data in a way that someone who access it unauthorized would have done. Then we have what is called the black hackers, which are usually the ones that if you watch TV or some pictures, you see them with a black hoodie over their head and so on. That is just like how persons will say the devil have a red tail and a fork. Some of the hackers that you will see are persons that are wearing neckties and they don't wear any hoodies. So don't be fooled that everyone with a hoodie is a hacker, right? Just putting that out there. But generally, that's the type of person. So anybody that access data or information unauthorized or unknown to you, it is hacking, right? So you learn what that term is tonight. So what are some of the common forms of cyber attack? And I mean, there are several of them. But I pick out again, as I say, the ones that are more likely going to affect us on an individual level. And the first one is what we call a malware attack. So we talk about software. A software is an application or a program that is written to do a specific task. Now, malwares are also softwares, but they are softwares written to do bad things. So you have different forms of malwares. You have spyware, for example. Somebody installs something on your machine or on your phone, and just as we were saying before, they are able to see what you're doing, so they can record what is called the keystroke. So for example, when you're typing in your passwords and you think that your password is hidden because you see those little star up there, it's just hidden to your eyes. So somebody looking over your shoulder, for example, is not able to see what is being typed. But from a computer program level, the computer can actually see if you press A, B, C, uppercase, lowercase, whatever those scenarios are, right? So these are different application. You hear a term they call Trojan, and this comes from the Greek time where they have. Sorry about that. Let me just put this phone on silent. Yes, you have the Greek where they had this theory of when the Trojan came into a city, they wanted to defeat the city of Troy, and so they offered a gift, build a horse to the king because the walls were impenetrable, and they had the soldiers hidden inside it. So in the night, when everybody is gone to sleep, they knock out the horse, and the soldiers came out and destroyed their enemies. So all of these things, by the way, are usually things that we invite. So the malware and spywares and adwares are, the advertisement that you see keep popping up on your phone and say, if you want to buy something or another, click on this and you win a prize or something like that. And everybody feel happy and say, yeah, I can win a prize, and you click on it. Now, when you click on it to win the prize that you didn't subscribe to before, then that is now inviting the hacker to use some backdoor access to your system, and they can get in and use, whether it is a spyware or ransomware. Ransomware, if you might recall, I don't know how many of you listen to the news where there was a breach in one of our companies out here. I don't remember the name of the company, but what they were saying is that we have access to some data in your company, and if you don't pay us, we are going to release the information. So it would be records of clients' transaction, all of these things. Sometimes it might be even on your personal computer or your device. Now, I will say this and it might sound away, but even your phones, there, for whatever reason, I don't know why we do that, but there are persons who will take pictures of themselves and they are, let's say, not fully dressed, and they have that picture on their phone. Now, you might take it for your personal reason or whatever, I don't know. But just imagine that you have that picture on your phone and someone gains illegal access to your phone. Now, remember I said earlier that some of the things that we download, it tells us we'll get access to your contact, we have access to your gallery, we'll have access to this, we have access to that. Now, you unknowingly give access to your gallery for whatever reason, because a lot of times we don't read what we're giving access to. And let's say you had a picture in there that you didn't want anybody else to see because you took it for yourself to look on yourself for whatever reason. Now, when that hacker gets that picture, now because it has you in what is called a compromising position, then now they will say, pay me $10,000 or whatever the money is, and I won't release this picture. And because you don't want to see a picture release, you're going to try to give them money. And in more times than often, even if they give them money, they're still going to release the picture anyways. Because once they have access to that information, it can go there. So the rule of thumb is don't do anything that you don't want to get out there and put it on a phone. It is a very bad idea. And this goes especially for young people as well, because sometimes you have friends and you know what can happen, right? Don't do these things. Persons are in relationship with persons, and it could be even marital spouses too, and they send pictures of themselves in certain way, and then for whatever reason that relationship breaks up, that can now become a ransomware. So when you send the information before, it was fine because everything was okay with the person, but now you and the person is separated and they're upset that you leave them or whatever the case may be, and the next thing they say, okay, I'm going to spite you, and those pictures are leaked. So we get the idea of some of the basic things, right? Phishing attack is another thing that is common, and phishing is something they use through a means of we call social engineering. What do we mean by that? So, for example, someone will send you an email and they will pretend as if it's coming from a reputable organization. And they will say, okay, for example, you see a mail coming from your bank to say, okay, we have realized that there was a breach on your account and you need to change your password immediately. Click on this link to change the password so that your money is safe. And naturally, once we see that, it gives our bills up because say, whoa, I don't want anybody to access my account. So the first thing you're going to do, without even thinking, you're going to click on that link. And once you click on that link and start typing to change the password, you now are thinking that you are interacting with BNS or NCB or any other institution that you have. But really and truly, it's a fake website that you are being linked to. So some of the things that you ought to look out for to help you identify this, first and foremost, never click on any link that you're unaware of. If it is something coming from the bank, call the bank and speak to someone and verify if this is the case. And you know what the bank numbers are. Also, look out for the spellings, because most of the time the website is not spelled correctly, because you cannot have two companies with the same domain name, for example. So each domain name, and when we mean a domain name, is a name when you type in www.courtney@CWJ, for example. Now the domain is CWJ, and what identifies me at CWJ is Courtney at CWJ. Now that is linked to an IP address, which is just a number that identifies where that sits in the world. So even though you are seeing it as a regular name, it's really just a set of numbers that the computer uses as an address. Just like how you say, I live at 1234 Street. That's how the computer knows how to send the information to anywhere. So that information is now there, but two persons can have the same identical address. So what they will do is to change some things and it looks similar, but if you look clearly, the spelling is off, or most times you may see them not having the symbol HTTPS before it. So anytime you're going on a site and it doesn't have HTTPS before it, afterwards I will type it on a notepad. Sorry, I didn't put it in the slide before. Then it should be something that you're aware of. Because most financial institution or any institution that secures your data, they are going to have the HTTPS behind it. So look clearly for that. And that does stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it is secured. There's HTTP, which you still can access the web from, but usually that is not secured. So anything that you type, somebody can pick it up. It's unencrypted, so they can see exactly what you're doing. So remember, phishing attack is basically person sending a fake email. Sometimes it will look like it come from a trusted friend. So remember, we said that some of these things we give access to. We have given access to our contacts. And in our contacts, you have the text of the phone numbers of persons, and sometimes you even have the email address of persons. So if someone gets access to your contact information, they can now try to hack somebody that is your friend, because they probably use one of these things and get the information, and then know they send it. So you see the email coming from Courtney, and you say, oh, it's Courtney sending this to me, man. And so your guards are automatically down. But little did you know it's an hacker that hacks Courtney email and is sending you an email. So when you see things with links in an email, rule of thumb, it is always recommended or best never to click on a link in an email that you don't know is coming from a trusted source. And if you're not comfortable with the source, pick up the phone or find some other means of trusted way of communicating with the person and say, I see you send a text to me saying that I should transfer some money because you're in debt of something and you're critical. And it might come from a family member or seeming to be coming from a family member. And so you say, okay, yeah, man, it's my sister or my brother, and you send it across. But pick up the phone, call your brother and say, I see you send me a mail, Wayne, but I'm not sure. Did you send this mail? And Wayne would say, no. And once you hear that now, you know that it's somebody that is hacking. So think before you click. Password hack is always the easiest thing. There are different ways in which this can be done, and usually it is done because we have what is called weak passwords. I will explain on a further slide how to prevent ourselves from this and what is determined as a strong password as opposed to a weak password. Are there any questions so far? Any of the terms that I've used that you're not so clear on and you
Yes,
want me
yes,
to
Evangelist. I have a question.
go ahead, sir?
You said about the HTTPS. Let us say I receive an email and it doesn't have that. Then shouldn't I just go and delete it? Would you suggest it?
I would recommend that you do that.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, in some emails, you have what is called a spam. So there's a little button on your computer where you can click it as a spam. And what that also does, it alerts Google or any of the internet providers or that has that to say, okay, this is something I'm suspecting or suspicious of. So deleting it is good. Spamming it is also better, because when you spam it, what it will also do is to prevent you from receiving future things from that person. So
Okay.
it kind of curtail it as well. In my company, for example, they have a button on our email that they call phishing alert. So if you're suspecting that someone is trying to gain information from you, you flag it as a phishing alert. It sends it to the IT manager, and they would look and see what is happening in the background, and then they will prevent future mails from that
Okay.
individual or organization coming through.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other question? All right, so moving on. Oops, I think I went ahead. All right, so we talk about identity-based attacks. And this now is one of the dangerous attacks that are out there. So person steals your personal information, your login, your PIN, and they use this information to access other systems. Now, this is one of the things that it's very hard to recover from, and it's also very hard to prove. So we have cybersecurity experts, the CTOC team in Jamaica that is trained on these kind of stuff, and there's a cybersecurity unit in the Constabulary Force and even in the JDF. But these things sometimes are long to prove, hard to prove, and then by the time you get to prove it, there are so much reputational damage that could have been done already. In some of the cases, most of the times, it is mostly financial implicating, but then depending on the status of somebody, it could be even more dangerous. So, for example, if somebody were to clone the prime minister email and address and so on, and identity theft, then they could now pretend as though they are the prime minister and is sending out communication to do certain things. And of course, when you check it out, it takes a lot of time to prove these things. So by the time persons find out, say it's not true, then your reputation is already tarnished. And we have a way in the media when things are out there, they come out big in the headlines. Courtney did this and that. And then when it's a correction, it's in a little box in a corner where nobody even sees that. They don't want to put it out big again and say, no, it was a mistake. So half of Jamaica already think is you do it. So it's clear enough your PIN, your email address, passwords, and all of those things is a definite no-no. I would want to say trust no one. But there are some persons you can trust, right? But again, once you share this information, it usually takes a longer time for for it to be proven. It's not that it can't be done, but it's very difficult. Brute force attack is pretty much where, as I said before, it could be a software that is been used to access the information. So for example, somebody is trying to access your account. So let's say they get access to your bank card for whatever means. You share that number with them and they have access to it. But they may not have access to your PIN or the what you call that thing on the back, the security CV2 code or whatever. So what they will do is have an application that is running and it is trying all the possible permutations or chances, that's what that permutation means, to see what is the likelihood of this password. And of course, if it's a computer, it's not going to sleep. So it will do it until it actually comes to finding something, right? So if you have weak password, then obviously it gives the application no time to do. So any system that you log in and you have the default password as your password, you already set yourself at risk because everybody that has access to the system knows that that's the default password. So if you set your password also as password, which is literally spelling out password, in most cases as the default password, then that's the first thing the brute force attack is going to check. Have you changed the basic default password? And if it checks and it says no, right away they have access to your account right away. In some application, luckily, what they will do, they will force you to change the default password. So once you log in with the default password in the first time, then you see a next window pop up and it asks you to change it. But not all applications will do that. So once you have something and you have a password, change the default password. Whether it is password as default password, sometimes you'll see some of them as welcome123, or some default password might be 1234567 8. These are common default passwords that are used in a lot of applications. So you may not want to use that as a password because everybody else already know that password, right? Everyone clear on that? All right. So we hear about all of the things that we can do to get, and this is a wide topic. In fact, you'll have to do a full university course on cybersecurity. So this is a very condensed version of what is out there for the record. But some basic things. How can we reduce cyber attacks? So the first thing we want to do is to use strong password. What do I mean by a strong password? Your password should not be, in most cases, less than 8 characters. And by characters, we mean any key that you can press on the keyboard is a character. Even the space bar is a character, but you may not see anything written there, but it records something. So every key on your keyboard or on your computer is associated with a physical number that the computer understands. And the computer don't speak English, French, Spanish, or what. What it speaks is ones and zeros, binary codes. So every keystroke you make is converted into a representation of a number for that binary code. And that's how the computer understands it. So when you press your space bar, for example, you don't see anything on the screen, but the computer registers that you press the space bar. That's how it knows that it must put a space there, right? So first thing you want to do is to ensure that your passwords are never less than 8 characters. You also want to alternate your password to use what they call alphanumeric values. So alpha mean any letters of the alphabet, and numeric any number from 0 to 9, right? And what you also want to do is to also interchange the case of the letters that you use. So for example, you might want to say the first letter in the password is going to be a capital letter, and then the next letter behind that is going to be a number, and it's going to be associated with something else and so on. I'll give you an example of that afterwards, of how you can create some of these passwords. And it's not very complicated. And I might be telling this, and sometimes, to be honest, I'm guilty of not doing it because I know better. But sometimes laziness, we will also say, I'm going to try to remember an easy password. So you try not to put a strong one. But it also is important that you don't use a password that you will forget. Because if you get a generated computer to do the password for you and it creates some long text password, then the first time you get into it, that may be the last time you get into it. In some cases, you may have the ability to reset those passwords, but in other cases, you would have to definitely call like your financial institution if it's a bank. So you probably don't want to set a password that is too complicated for you to remember to access your account. But at the same time, you don't want to set it too easily that anybody else can get it. Or a computer application can just run in the first 2 tries it gets access to your account. General rule of thumb, do not share your password. And again, this is in respect to, it depends on the situation. So if you have a shared account, like Sister Claudia and myself, we have a joint account. We also have our personal accounts as well. But we have joint accounts. So for a joint account, we would have to have a shared password. And most of the time, I'm the person who set the password. And even if I tell her 10 times, she just could still go and come and ask, what the password again? Hi, Sister Claudia, how are you? So, but in those scenarios, you definitely will use a shared password. Next thing that you should be careful of is not to use the same password across multiple accounts. And we can obviously see why that is important. So you don't want to put yourself at open risk, whereby if a hacker or somebody gains access for whatever means to one of your accounts, then the same password they use for your bank account is the same password they use for your email address, is the same password they use to access your house, is the same password you use for just about everything. So you can clearly see that once that password is breached, all your life is over because that hacker is going to search for everything. Yes, Sister Sharon, I see your hand up. You can go ahead with your question.
Yes, greetings. What I am saying, like person like me, like how we are in age, and we cannot remember the password. Couldn't we get a little notebook where we can write it down in so that we can? That's how I do it. And because sometimes I can't remember my own, so I have a book where I write it down in and I put it in a secret place where I know where it is, and then I will go back there and whatever. Could you do
All
that?
right. So,
I'm asking if we could do that.
all right. I'm going to answer it twofold. So, yes, you can do that, but it's also risky doing that. Now, what I would say is if you're going to write down it as a password, and sometimes it does happen. There are sometimes you will have to write down your password because if you have multiple accounts and you use different passwords, it's kind of difficult to remember all of them, to be honest. What I recommend that you do is when you're writing down that password, you don't keep it in a way that it can identify what that password is. So, for example, you don't write on it and say bank book password, if you understand what I'm getting at. Because if somebody, for whatever reason, break into your house or you misplace it or that book fall out of your bag or wherever it is, then more likely it probably have your name on it and it have your address. And so the person now sees, okay, this is the name and this is the address. And then they look in the book and they say bank book password. So right away, they have two out of the three things that the bank would ask to confirm. So they're going to ask you, oh, okay, can you identify who it is? And you're going to say, okay, I'm Courtney McTavish. All right, where's your address? I'm at 1234. You give them that information and I say, all right, what's the password? And it's right there. So yes, you can write it down, but it's not recommended for you to do so. But if you absolutely have to do it, then I would say put it in somewhere that you don't identify what it is given access to. So don't write, say, this is the password for my email address, this is the password for my bank book. But you know that when you take up that number. So if you see 1234 on a piece of paper in a book, nobody know what that relates to. They might figure that it's probably a password to something, but what is that password? They'd have to try all the different things that you have access to. So that's how I would answer that question. What up, Sister Sharon?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome. A next rule of thumb again. Remember we talk about the phishing attack? Think before you click. So if it looks suspicious, 10 to 1 chance it is suspicious. Do not click until you know. And I have a rule of thumb. I don't care who it is. If you send me a text or anything with a link, not like a Zoom link or something like that we can identify clearly. There are times when somebody will send you, for example, a thing, and it might be a video, and it's just a link with some thing, and say, watch this video, and you see it, and you click on it. Don't do that. It is very dangerous because, again, because persons can impersonate persons, it could be coming from a hacker and you click on it and right there and then you're given access to your phone or your computer or something and you don't know. And a lot of these things happen unknown to persons. And I will tell you that even security persons, these things happen to them too. But, it's less likely. So don't let your guards down. As we say earlier, verify that the person who is requesting the information is the right person. So if you're not sure, you can always reach out to the person and try to confirm what the person is saying. Again, we mentioned earlier, change the default setting for data privacy and social media accounts. And this is very important because in this social media age, we go on Facebook, we go on, there are so many of them. Thank God I'm not so much social media crazy. But all of these come with some default settings. Now, when you give access to your friend list and all kind of things on these things, without changing some of the default settings, if you set your account to public viewing by everyone, for example, that's, I think in most cases, the default setting. then it means everybody can see what you're doing. And everybody includes hackers, right? So you might want to go in and figure out how to change some of these default settings. In most cases, there are help tools on the application that you're using. So if you're not sure, just click on the help, how to do this, how to do that, or simply Google. Well, you say Google, but web search, because Google is not the only web search that, but you know, everybody just say Google. You do a web search and say how to secure my Facebook, how to secure my thing, and there are videos and things online that can help you. Never access, and this now is even more important than anything else. In this day and age where everybody loves Wi-Fi and we love free Wi-Fi, remember, nothing in life is free. So if you have access to a Wi-Fi that somebody gave you access to, let's say it's your neighbor or your friend. Now, again, you have to put friend in quotation, right? Once you remember the earlier conversation we talked about network. So your wireless access is also a network. So if, for example, you go to KFC and Burger King and any place that they give you what is called free Wi-Fi or open or unsecured Wi-Fi, that is the proper terminology, unsecured. So it means that you don't have to put in a password to gain access to it. It simply means that if you don't have to put a password to gain the access, nobody else has to do that. Now, everybody that is on that network is open to everybody. So whilst you may not be able to do certain things, an hacker who has the expertise is able to do it. So in a free Wi-Fi setting, if you have to use it, and I would recommend, try avoid using free Wi-Fi as much as possible because it's very dangerous. But if you have to do that, there are tools that you can use to protect yourself. One of those tools is called a VPN, which stands for a virtual private network. It's something that you have to pay for, but it simply means that it is protecting you from the other person. So even though you're on the open space, whatever you do, no one else can see it. It's just ring fenced to your information alone. But if you're going to use free Wi-Fi, you can probably use it just to watch YouTube or one of those things. But don't access your email. Do not, in any circumstances, access your financial information, and don't access any sensitive data that can identify you. Because if you do that, then somebody that also have access to that will be able to get into your information and they can use it maliciously. And you will suffer whether it is financial loss or reputational damage. Clear on that so far? And I have to push along quickly. I'm going to try to wrap it up by 9:30. So we can push along. All right, so how to create strong passwords. So as we said, your password must be 8-character length, and we explain what the characters are. Avoid using, and this goes now for, I'm not troubling your sister, Sharon, but I'm going to trouble the older persons that are online because it's the easiest temptation. Don't use your birth date, because guess why? Anybody that can social engineer knows your birthday. So the first thing they're going to do is, if they want to gain access to something, they're going to try your birthday. So don't use your birth date, your son's birth date, your husband's birth date, any family member's birth date. Don't use names of your pet, because anybody that knows you also knows the name of your pet. So if they want to gain access, they are going to try some of the common things. So anything that is familiar to you that can easily relate to you and somebody else can figure it out, it is recommended not to use that. So don't use your nickname, don't use your birthday, don't use a name of a family member or any of those things. If you you should practice every now and then to change your password. But especially change your password where you suspect a breach. So if you suspect that something is wrong or somebody is doing something, or you see something happening that you know that you didn't do, change your password right away. Especially for persons that have banks and use online transaction and so on, ensure that you set up your phone where you have what is called alerts. So if you use your card somewhere, or if you go online to purchase something or you transfer any money or so on, it will send you a text to your phone, and right away you can verify, and you will know, even though it comes to you and you know that it's you do it, you can verify right away that yes, this is from me. And I tell you why. In probably about, when was it, Sister Claudia? Probably about August there, about or wherefore, I used my credit card whilst trying to access a hotel facility. And unbeknown to me, the person or somebody, and I'm making the suspicion that it's there because this was after that, gained access to my credit card information. And what they started doing was they started doing the same thing that I'm telling you about. So this is a personal experience that and something that you can find out. So what they started to do was they went on Amazon and they started to do what is called shopping for free. So for those who are familiar with Amazon, you know that there are some games or some things that you can buy. You're actually downloading it, but what it does, it attaches zero charge to your account. But to do that, it also verifies that, yes, this is you. So I was in church this Sunday and I felt my phone vibrated. I looked on it and I saw the thing says, Amazon $0 from something. So I was trying to wonder where this was coming from. But because I know sometimes I set up my accounts too with the kids for like an email access, I said, oh, probably it's one of them access a game. Then I look again and I see a next thing coming now again for the next zero charge. So by the time I'm to go outside to call the bank to say, okay, I'm seeing some suspicious thing, because by this time now I know I am not using anything. So if I see it twice, then something is wrong. By the time I went outside to call the bank, I saw where I think it was like 20 little money, but like 23 US or something. Um the person made a purchase for 23 US because they can't do certain things all at once. Right there and then, because I was alert, I was able to call my bank immediately, alert them of the situation, and ask them to shut down my card immediately. Went inside, got my card changed, and of course, they had to go through the process of verifying that it's not me and all of that. So after a couple months, I got back my $11,000 or something, whatever they took from me. But it could have easily well been far more money than that. So you see how important it is for you to be very secure. And that's why I'm saying I let down my guard because I was talking to somebody who I say, oh, this is a hotel and it's reputable. So there and then, you're not thinking, share the credit card information. And then afterwards, it says, shucks, why did you do that? But there and then, that was it. So I'm saying we have to be very careful on those scenarios. So I think that is it for me in the presentation. Let me check. Yes. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And again, I'm just leaving on the screen a little, how to protect ourselves from cyber attacks. So I did promise you that I'll go through an exercise of just how you can, a simple way you can put a secured password and something that you can easily remember. And I'm going to say after I do this, don't bother use that as your password, because if I want to hack you, I'm going to find out and use it. Just kidding. So any questions before I move on to that? Clear as mud?
Yeah, but I also, well, my question is not so much on what is done tonight because it's so informative. I'm so glad for it. My question is, can I be assured that we'll get a part 2 next time around, especially with the personal the information to secure your personal reputation also?
Okay. So I'll have to go do some other deep research and bring up some other things.
Very
But yes,
important, very relevant.
it's possible.
But it's very relevant, Evangelist, now that we are in this space, we operate in a different space from long time days. So if we can't protect ourselves now, we will lose a lot.
Yeah. And funny it is that you asked that, sir. I was coming over since evening. I got home and then I had to run out back to the pharmacy to get some medication because one of the kids fell ill. And whilst I was out there, I was listening this Beyond the Headlines program, and they were talking about the scam, they call it SIM switch or SIMs. I don't know how many of us was listening to the program. But it was a similar thing that they did. What they did is, they took someone's SIM, went into the thing, pretended to be like them, and got a new card number to say, okay, I lost my number, whatever the case may be. And because the person knows that when you change your bank account or your information, it sends the verification pin to the number. So that individual unfortunately lost, I think, over $200,000 just like that, because by the time they realized that their SIM was because what they did, they set up a fake promotion thing and tell the person, oh, you win a SIM and you can come and change it out, and they pretended to be one of the telecoms person. I will not say which one, it's not mine, but I will not say which one. And there and then the person was able to access the information. So these are some of the things. Don't be too quick to want rewards, because it might just be that you're giving away what you have. And a lot of scamming that is happening, a lot of these things, they're using what they call social engineering and all of these things. So they try to get some information from you. So even some of the free games that we're signing up for and so on, and they say fill up this and fill up that, and you go in and you do it. It's collecting some data. So they are getting some of the basic information that they will now be able to use. So all they need left is to get access to an electronic device that you have. And that's what happened to the person. Unfortunately, they lost 200,000. I don't know if the bank and the investigation gave them back, but these things sometimes take a lot of time to prove. So you're correct, sir. All right, so if there are no further questions, I am going to for this to show you an example of a strong password. So let's say I want to type a password, and I want to say my password is Jesus saves 123. Now, automatically, that's a phrase. And everybody as a Christian, okay, Jesus saves. So how do I make that password one strong? So by the fact that I said Jesus saves, it's already more than 8 characters, right? So I could start by doing something like this, right? Everybody seeing my screen? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, it is there. It is there.
Right. So you see Jesus saves right there, right? So think of a phrase that you want to use, and then we're going to apply the strategies. So we already have 1, 2, 3. So that is alphanumeric, we have numbers and letters in it. Then what I want to do is to strengthen this. So I'm going to start by making the first letter capital. Then I could always switch out, let's say, the E for the number 3. And if you look above the keyboard, you'll see just above the letter E, you'll see the number 3. So you know that it is supposed to be E, but now you're coding it. So it now becomes JE3 and SUS. Now, usually, wow, my battery is running low. Let's hope it don't shut down on me. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. I stuck on to run for my charger because it's not nearby me. So hopefully the laptop don't die before I didn't realize it wasn't plugged in. Right, so you get the idea I'm at. So we changed the S, sorry, it was the S that I changed instead of the, so now we are at S, and usually you can use something that is, thank you, that is familiar to you. So I might want to use the $ instead of S, for example. So every time I see a S, I'm going to substitute that S with the $. Sorry about that. Just trying to, yes. So we won't get shut down now. My laptop is plugged in. So I switch that out with the $. And every time I see a S, that's what I'm doing. So you notice the $ looks similar to the S. So now this is and I don't even have to change anything else because this is already a strong password. So you can come up with your own what is called codes, but there are some guides that you use. So like you can look on any number that is above a letter, and you can use that number to substitute that letter. You ensure that you always have at least one capital letter in your password, and you ensure that you have some special character and a numeric value. So I generally like to use $ as my special characters. You could use number sign, you could use the @ sign, anything of your choice. But I tend to use something that I will readily remember. So I think of a phrase. What is that phrase? Jesus saves. Now, I know that every time I use a S, I substitute a $. Every time I use a E, I substitute that E with a 3. So now I could even just take off the 1, 2, 3 now, and I have all the password. So you looking on this, it makes absolutely no sense to you. But I know based on how I do things, it's Jesus saves. So now all I have to do is to remember Jesus saves, and then I remember what I use to substitute Jesus saves. There are other ways you can do, but those are some of the things. If you're going to use a nickname that you might be known of or something, so let's say they call you, I'm going to trouble my father's name, Carly. So you want to use Carly, then the same principle applies. So you can substitute the E for 3, and you can put in a special character, and you can put some other numbers. If you even want to use your birthday, in this case, and this is not my real birthday now, right? Nor my father's. That's an example. So if you want to use your birthday, then now you can have that. So now you see, you have something that is familiar to you, which is the last part of the number as your birthday. You have a first part that is a name that is familiar to you, like your nickname or some parts of your name. And then you have some special characters in it. So this is far more complicated for somebody that knows you to figure out. And if a computer is going to be running a program, it's going to take far longer time to try to figure out this than even this. So the more special characters you use and the length of your password, is going to be helpful as the basic tool of protecting you. Outside of that, ensure that the first protection is to be self-aware. So anything that you're not comfortable with, do not share. Don't share your password. Do not click on a link that you're not comfortable with or you're uncertain that the person it's coming from somebody you know. And these are just some of the basic things that you can do. So it's 9:37. It started a little bit late, but I'm happy that I was able to share this information and I trust that it was beneficial to you. So if there are no further questions, I will hand over at this time to our pastor.
Yes, sir.
You have a question, Brother Brown? Brother Brown?
So, yes, I'm saying
Yeah, I think you're breaking up.
information because I'm breaking up. You're hearing me now?
Yes, hearing you now.
Yes. I said I was so glad for this information because I told you guys some time ago that my phone